motions, right? So
I get movers and seconders, but they'll need to be affirmed at your next meeting.
Oh, okay.
And you'll have one motion at the next meeting to affirm all the motions from this meeting.
So ladies, it'll be a rotational thing.
Okay.
Okay, we are live.
We are live. This is the first meeting of the call to order, the first meeting of 2022 to the Economic Development Committee. Can we have a confirmation of the agenda? Michelle, seconded by Coralie. Anybody against? No, passed. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. If you're going to make any money, you can do it anytime. The adoption.
So can I just ask you to
Jeff wants me to go slower.
No, you're going the perfect speed. I just wonder if you could mention that we don't have a quorum.
So for the first meeting, we don't have a quorum, so we won't pass any motions unless enough come in. We need, well.
So what we'll have the committee do is we'll take movers and seconders and we'll take votes on all the motions. And then at the next meeting, when we have quorum, we'll ask that meeting to affirm all the motions from this meeting. So I just want to be clear because there will be folks that'll watch it on YouTube after the fact. So I just thought I'd get you that.
Okay, so the minutes from the November 17th, 2021 minutes. Where did everybody move to? Can we have a motion by Coralie, seconded by Michelle? Both in favor? All three of us can be. Okay, business arising. Seeing none, we'll start with Justin Diaz, who's here from the Perth County Economic Development Committee.
Thank you. Through the chair, just a brief update today, just a couple of things to bring to the committee's attention. One is our ongoing recruitment for our Discover More Adventures experiential tourism program. So this is our program we launched last year. A number of experiences throughout the county. So we're recruiting again for this year for new experiences. Again, some of the past experiences that we did were TLC Alpacas, Lynn River Farm, a few other experiences that we've launched so far. So if you are interested, if you know any businesses that have either a ready-made tourism experience or they're looking to add an experience to their existing operations, we encourage you to reach out to our tourism officer, Ashley Brocklebank, to see if they can be a part of this year's 2022 experiential tourism. We know that is a growing trend and will continue to be so in this year and going forward. So to put a plug in for the Discover More Adventures program, ongoing update again about our digital service squad. So we do have our digital service squad coordinator until the end of the month, Eileen, who has worked with some of our businesses. I know she was in Mitchell a couple of weeks ago taking 360-degree photos for businesses. And we have her doing all sorts of digital assistance to businesses until the end of the month. So I encourage any businesses who have been thinking about digital services, adding anything digital to their business, whether it be social media, website, what have you, please reach out to her sooner than later because, as I mentioned, the window is closing for her. That being said, Digital Main Street is continuing to offer their Shop Here program, which is setting up free online stores for small businesses across the province. That program is ongoing, so that'll continue to be supported, as well as some of the digital services that Eileen has been offering, 360-degree photos, and some of those kind of less intensive digital supports. We'll continue to offer those beyond her contract at the end of the month. But again, encouraging folks to reach out sooner than later so that they don't miss out on those opportunities. Another program we're recruiting for, again, gearing up for our upcoming tourism season, is the Discover More Flavor program, which is our farm gate map. New farm gates have until Feb 28th to get their submissions in to be included in this year's printed map. So that window, again, is also closing shortly in the next couple of weeks. So please do encourage any new farm gates that aren't part of our farm gate program to get involved. A reminder of what that program includes. So businesses that are included are on our digital map. They're on our printed map. They receive a signage package, including some 911 signs, roadside signs, welcome mats to brand themselves as being part of the program. And then we also, as being part of that program, we get promoted on our social media and our other accounts as part of our ongoing tourism promotion. So no cost program. It's all about promoting our farm gates and getting their increasing their visibility across the county. So please, again, to be part of the printed map, they need to get their information submitted to us by February 28th. We will take farm gates after that to be part of our digital map, but they just won't be part of the printed map this year. I just wanted to also bring to the community's attention the Welcome Communities training that we do offer to any business in Perth County. So this training consists of 3 different modules: essentials of intercultural competency, effective intercultural communication, and power dynamic and systemic discrimination. So 3 free courses offered through our partners at Fanshawe Corporate Training Services. Very effective, and we've got lots of good feedback on these 3 courses. So if there are any businesses that are looking to enhance their welcomingness to newcomers and add this to for themselves or for their employees, to please reach out. We can get them set up with a free license to do so. And then finally, our welcome to Perth County packages. We have packages that we have available to any business that has commuting employees primarily. So these are really packages that are designed to share with new employees or employees who are currently commuting into the community about what's there to offer, what's there to do in Perth County for them and their families. We know, especially in some of the larger employers, that the workers are coming in from outside the region, spend their day working inside the 4 walls of the factory, what have you, and then go back to wherever they came from. May not know about all there is to see and do in Perth County for themselves and their families. So these packages are, again, free of charge, really trying to introduce commuting workers to what all there is to do and see in Perth County. So I think I'll probably leave it at that. Just a brief update on some of the things we're working on, and we'll welcome any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Justin? No? You're off the hook, Justin. Okay, now we'll go to Jeff, Municipality, West Perth. Pardon?
Great. I don't think there was anything. Okay, I'll do some quick updates, and there'll be a little bit more discussion about the breakfast. So I'm going to leave comments about the breakfast and conversation about how are the event, and comments about the economic development newsletter until our next agenda item. And so we'll come to that, but I'm just going to provide general municipal updates. Number 1, at the last meeting, I think it was Corley, and there was a robust discussion with the group about options for billeting, or sort of that concern about short-term accommodations that might be, there's just not a lot of rental opportunities in West Perth and in Mitchell, and that's kind of making it difficult for businesses to get co-op students. So I've been doing some work on that. I've talked to Meredith, and I know Meredith Forget at the county, and I know Meredith and Justin have talked about this. We're looking at the possibility of submitting a grant application that would allow us to do research, to find best practices and some toolkits for businesses that would assist them with strategies to do that. So I didn't want you to think that we had left that go. We've done a bit of research. There are a couple of examples out there that we're going to pull together, and we'll be reporting back on that. Secondly, I want to mention that we are proceeding with our intention to proceed to dispose of the Friendship Center building. So the west end of that Friendship Center property, retain the parking lot, which is about 19 spaces, I believe, and to support downtown parking, and the hope that businesses from the downtown would park in that off Main Street lot in order for Main Street to be available for customers. And then we are disposing of a 6-meter or approximately 20-foot parcel at the east end of that property, which we are selling as a lot addition to the neighboring business, which will really help them with establishing a better parking space for their vehicles that are waiting to be serviced, and it'll just make their business more successful. So we obtained an appraisal price for that property, and we offered that as a lot addition. So the net effect of all those changes will be that the municipality will be left with a 19-space parking lot, which is almost the size that we have now. It's a little bit smaller than what we have now. and that 800 square feet of the Friendship Center is being incorporated into the new municipal office, which is currently under construction. On the topic of the new municipal office, the project budget's $3.54 million. That's an all-in budget, everything right down to furniture and equipment, design, inspections, building permits, everything. We are, at this point in time, we appear to be very, very much on budget. We're right around budget. We're a little bit under on contingency, but we're probably a little over on furniture equipment because of the file storage that we're putting in it. But we're very close and on time. The windows went into the building in the last couple of days. We have 4 windows that are on back order. So the window sets are not complete, but it's much closer than it was. The concrete floors poured, the layout's done on the inside, and we are on schedule for probably being able to get in that building. We've been saying midsummer, and it does look like that sort of end of July timeline is what we're on. The Heron Business Park, I have a couple updates on the Heron Business Park. We sold 6 acres of land to Fred Gronestege Construction for a precast facility. That is the 6 acres that's immediately east of the Hogs Flat property. If you are familiar with the Hogs Flat property that was developed last year, and it's immediately across from Safina. That 6-acre sale closed in the fall, and we understand that FGC will be intending to build this summer. They're working on their site plan application. We're working with them on how we can handle an interim plan for stormwater management, which brings me to the next update, which is we have the pond for a joint stormwater management facility designed that will be down at the east end of the very east end of that block, right down against Road 160. It requires the cooperation of Cargill Limited. We've been working hard to get conversations with Cargill Limited, made some good progress on that last week. We've had an opportunity to demonstrate show our proposal to Cargill Limited, and I'm waiting to hear back on their interests. And of course, in that case, what we're looking at is the benefits for Cargill Limited are the deepening of sanitary services at an incremental cost, and the ability of the municipality to do some land sale to them, which would make that future industrial property much more accessible to rail in exchange for the municipality being able to do a joint stormwater pond in the best location for gravity, because water wants to flow downhill, and also to get it down in that end where it can then enter World Creek and not have to go under the rail before it enters World Creek, which would add another level of complexity with the rail lease. So I'm happy to report that we've made some progress. We still have a ways to go. I'll be very disappointed if we don't have a land plan together over the next few months. And at that point in time, we'll start the clock on our environmental assessment with the intention of being able to do tendering for this fall and hopefully be moving dirt, installing services, and building the street that we plan to have in there next spring as a project early next year, and get that industrial land on. The economic development newsletter emphasizes 2 industrial opportunities or industrial commercials. Fred Gronestege one, there's another one at the west end, and we certainly, the rest are all residential, and we've got our eye on both residential and industrial. And I think we're going to lag behind the industrial side if we don't get the Heron Business Park project in place and get those 1 to 2.5 or 3 acre lots available to businesses to establish in our community. So that's the extent of my updates. I certainly will answer questions about the newsletter and about our plans for an event in the next agenda item. But if there's questions about this agenda item, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions for Jeff? Seeing none, on to 6.3.
And 6.3 is? Thanks. Thanks very much. I just want to make sure I don't have my agenda in front of me. So 6.3 is the economic development newsletter and in-person event. So a little bit of a discussion, and I hope that I'd like to hear anyone who's had any feedback from the community. We did mail, so the newsletter went together in accordance with the general direction of the committee. We did get the mail out in the time that we intended to get it out. We had to go with a little lower quality paper this year. There was really two factors that drove that. It was partly cost, but we also went with this paper because there's a supply chain issue, and this was the paper we could be guaranteed to get, and we locked it up. And believe it or not, even paper's suffering supply chain issues. So I don't love the paper. It's not as glossy as what we did last year, but the other side, I think it's very, it's very efficient, and it does the job. So we had 7 pages of West Perth newsletter items, which was the intended budget. We had 5 pages of county economic development items, and if you've had an opportunity to review the newsletter, it went out to about 3,875 went out. We used ad mail, which was very efficient. It was around $600 to have this newsletter inserted into the mail of those households. We've had pretty good feedback from people that they got it. There's a couple of small neighborhoods that I've heard that say they didn't get it. That's kind of random sampling, but that's my experience with ad mail in the past, is you get a bit of that. And sometimes it's just people don't notice it. And so I'd be really interested if there is feedback from the committee about that choice of getting it into residents' hands as opposed to just businesses. And then on the basis of that feedback, I can then go forward and talk about our plan, because tonight was supposed to be a virtual meeting, and we obviously postponed it because of the lack of interest in a virtual meeting. And I think, frankly, it just means that people are zoomed out, and I'm not surprised by that. And so we can talk about what we do next, but let's see if there's any feedback on the newsletter first, if that's okay with you, Chair Wright.
Ladies?
I'll go first. I don't think there's any issue with the paper at all. Quite frankly, most people, learning from experience when you're doing marketing stuff, they don't pay attention to whether it's an expensive glossy paper. They look at it once, maybe twice, and it goes in the garbage. So the less expensive paper, as far as I'm concerned, it was fine. I've spoken to 2 or 3 different clients and just people in general, and they thought it was the best thing they'd ever gotten in the mail. And they were so appreciative that they got an update, because they really didn't kind of know what's been going on in town. And they really, really liked the fact that this kind of gave them a synopsis of what's been going on. So I had great feedback from it.
Orly?
Yeah, I had a little bit of feedback, and certainly was all good. I thought it was well done. I agree with Michelle. Don't care what the paper is. I think getting it to houses probably was a really good idea, particularly this year, because if you think of a lot of businesses, they don't have all their staff in, they aren't using the lunchrooms, even if it had got to the businesses, it's maybe not going to get as widespread as it might have in some other years anyway. So I think it was a good move.
Now we do have some left, because I'm cheap, and I went down to Canada Post to every day after. There was a delivery problem, because I think a box got set under a table.
Oh.
And it took about 10 days for me to get one at my house to my store. And people were coming into the store and getting them because they knew people had got them and they wanted one, but they hadn't got it at their house. So it explains everything to people.
Yep.
Like, it just makes it easy. So
great. And the feedback that I received, again, sort of random sampling feedback, because I've been making a point of asking people that I know when I have them on the phone for something else, did you notice it in your mail? And I've had several people tell me it's sitting open to the middle page on the kitchen table still. And so I think certainly that article in the middle with the map is very topical. I expect that that will be a topical conversation for this community for years to come as we experience development growth, which is I think imminent. And I also got some really good feedback about, we really made a conscious decision with this newsletter to link the importance of recreation, where we've been making some strategic investments, to youth retention, reattraction and attracting young families and employees. And I've had a fairly engaging conversation with a few people that have raised it with me and said, you know, that's an important link. And I think from an economic standpoint, and it would seem to be a link, but it's nice to hear people reinforce that by mentioning that, you know, they see that connection and they feel that it's brought out in the newsletter and they agree. So if there's no other feedback, then I'll talk about.
Michelle's
Yeah.
got a question.
It's just a general question. The Connect map and information in the Connect map, has there been any sort of increase in, and I'm not sure how much it's even been running with COVID, sorry, I'm slightly out of touch, but I'm wondering by having that in there, if they saw any more increase or if there was a change or more awareness?
Justin will tell you that it's been increasing every month.
And you're muted, Justin.
Yes, so I think it's probably too early to tell because the February numbers, or January was a slow month just because of the restrictions in place. So I know the January numbers, Meg reported at the last meeting at County Council, the January numbers I believe were down just based on the fact that the restrictions, but the February numbers will be out in March. So I guess we'll see based on when this hit the mailboxes, it probably, if there was an increase, it'll be reflected in the February numbers that'll come out in March. So yeah, unfortunately, it's probably too early to tell.
Yeah, great. If that answers the question, then I'm going to move on to. So obviously, I think I emailed the group, and I'll say that on the Zoom call for the getting it on the record and in the video, we had three people sign up for the virtual meeting event, and that was as of about last Wednesday. We had been pushing it pretty hard on socials, and we generally have good penetration with our socials, Facebook and Twitter particularly. We had been pushing it, and we just weren't getting the response. And so, and I think we all knew there was a risk that would happen. And we made the decision last Wednesday to say, okay, we're going to postpone a virtual event. I just think there isn't an appetite, and begin to look at what we would do to try to do something when we can get back to meeting in person. And so I don't like to be without a plan. So I've been kind of thinking about this and bounced some ideas off of Meredith. I had a chance to meet with Meredith Bourget today, and the chair of the committee. And I think where we visualize this going is that we will have the new municipal office up and running. We should be comfortably in by the beginning of September. I anticipate there will be lots of people who want to get in to see the new office. We will be right in the middle of an election campaign at that time, a local municipal election campaign at that time, assuming we have races. And I normally would advise against public events during an election campaign of that style, but this I think is rather apolitical. I think, you know, the concept of economic development and conversations about economic activity in the community and inviting people to come to a venue and have a snack and network and things like that, I think is somewhat apolitical. We'll know as we get further past the nomination dates and where we're going, but I think that we're probably safe to do that. And I think we may just aim for kind of an evening event. I'm not sure if, well, I think cheese is appropriate, but whether or not wine and cheese would be appropriate, we can evaluate. Perhaps it is. We certainly can license a venue. We can certainly look for some support from local producers to help us provide those supplies, and we can figure out whether or not how we want to do it. And I'm just kind of mentioning to this group that I've kind of got my eye on September 21st, which would be our September meeting of the Economic Development Committee, is the date where that might work. And I want to just say the other thing that I like about that date is that I'm not convinced that there won't be future restrictions from COVID, they'll likely always be closed weather times of the year. So from November to January or February, we're at risk, we're at higher risk at that time of year than any other time because of the nature of people being indoors. And I'm certainly very hopeful, like everyone else is, that we don't have any more restrictions. But I think the pragmatic side of me says that we could. And I like the idea of getting this event off in September, just because I expect that there will be the least risk of restrictions at that time, or less risk than later. So that's kind of the timeline. I think we'll come back and revisit the format at our next Economic Development Committee meeting. If we did manage to do some kind of a networking event in the evening, say 5:30 till 7:30, we did it as an open house format and a drop-in format in the new municipal office, which has like a nice large council chambers, which is a flex space. So it's designed to be able to move the chairs out and set it up as an auditorium. I think we're kind of achieving a lot of things with that. So that's my general proposal at this time, and certainly we'll come back to the April meeting with more discussion on it. But I'd love to hear if I'm on the right track.
So I think the evening thing is an excellent idea. People will be able to stick around more. They're not going to feel rushed, and they may make more of an effort to come home on their way from work. I think that personally, that's a way better than a morning one. And if you were going to do something like a wine, I would suggest maybe get a couple of our local craft beer gentlemen, the one that's out in Russellvale, the one in town. Maybe get Richard Purley to bring some of his Wine It Up wine and support those local guys if we're going to be using an alcohol-based function, would be my suggestion.
And I agree completely. And I get a little anxious around the idea of serving alcohol at a municipal event. But I think on the other hand, we've handled this the way we handled that at the mayor's levy when we kicked off the 2017 Sesquicentennial is we provided everyone who came with a ticket. And so you were able to get a free glass of wine, or I think we maybe even had beer. And so it was kind of a way to give everyone one and sort of suggest that that's a number. I think, I can't recall whether we sold extra tickets or not, but it actually was managed fantastically. I think it worked out really well, and it wasn't like a stag and doe. So, which is what you worry about. So great. Other questions or comments?
All right, that's it. Oh, you got another presentation?
Oh
no. Oh yeah, budget.
My last one is budget. And I first of all want to mention, and I'm remiss for not having mentioned this sooner, for those of you that haven't met Daniel Hobson, Dan Hobson, our clerk. Dan is helping us with the meeting tonight. Dan, we've got the clerk's office helping all the committees. And so when you see Dan Hobson's name down in the right corner, Dan is our manager of legislative services and town clerk, so our municipal clerk. So if you haven't met Dan, you're likely to meet him sometime along. And if you're wondering who that is, that's who it is. On the budget, it kind of ties into the last two agenda items. We brought forward the $2,500 that we normally have in the economic development budget to host an event. We actually, because of having to pay we have to pay the Canada Post bill out of the 2022 budget, because I couldn't very well ask them to give me a backdated invoice to December 31st so I could pay it out of 2021. We were able to pay printing and design in the 2021, but I included in the 2022 budget $5,000 for an event. And I expect that if we were able to pull off an event, we might want to do a shorter newsletter, which mainly focuses on the development projects, and a mail out of that, which I think would have a couple $1,000 budget. So I'm just indicating that I think we've got enough money in that budget. We brought money forward, and those budgets, our council budget approval timeline is the 22nd of February. That's Tuesday coming up, is our presentation of the budget to council. Staff will be providing council with operating and capital We won't have an exact estimate of where we think the percentage is, but we can certainly talk about the operating impacts and where we think the percentage is going to be. We're still getting the cleanup of 2021, so we can do year-end carryovers. And then our budget approval meeting is set for March the 21st. And depending on the business of the municipality and how we do with budget requirements to get ready for March 21st, we may move that budget approval meeting to March 28th. We'll make that decision on March 7th. We may add a meeting if we've got a lot of business for March 21st. So suffice to say, the plan is a draft budget, or at least operating and capital all in one place, and budget discussion on February 22nd and approval by the end of March for our budget, which is our normal timeline over the last number of years. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Michelle?
Sorry, it wouldn't be so noticeable if there was more than me and Coralie here tonight. My questions wouldn't seem like, oh my God, tell her to shut up.
You're doing a great job.
So I just have an input. I think the newsletter is way more important now that we've sent them out twice and people are starting to see them and they're starting to read them. And like you say, they're still staying on their thing. I would rather see that we keep the newsletter, the size and the information that's in the newsletter, to me, is probably more of a positive for the whole municipality as well as the committee than the 40 people that will show up at a wine and cheese function at the town hall. That's just my opinion. I would not want to see us downsize our budget to make a smaller newsletter. I think the size of the newsletter and the information in it is really imperative, and it seems to be getting to everyone, and I think that's more important.
So great, and you busted me. So I think we have enough money in to do both. And yes, my biggest fear, and you'll recall we weren't doing Zoom, or maybe we were doing Zoom when I said this. My biggest fear when we started the newsletter was that it was going to become successful and be an annual thing. And darn it, but success is a good thing. So I appreciate that feedback, Michelle. And so we did put enough money in the budget to do a modest budget for some kind of a mixer, and then money for design and printing, and we could decide on the size, but we can cover it.
Gee, I was on, okay. Good thing I didn't cost me $5. So then general discussion. Coralie, do you have any general discussion?
No, I think just other than what everybody's sharing is staffing. You know, it's a struggle for people to find staff, not just locally, but in general. I think, I mean, every client I have that has employees doesn't have enough of them. I'm not sure. I don't think it's just a Mitchell problem.
I believe it's an Ontario problem. Rural Ontario especially, I would say.
Yep.
So, Michelle, do you have anything else? I don't think I have. County Council tomorrow. The budget was done 2 weeks ago. So the municipality will know what our share is, because I have the budget binder here to chair. Now Daniel popped on. That's what he looks like. So Daniel, did you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say hi and yeah, get on here and show everyone, and my lovely ladder behind me. So thanks. And I just note that the Mitchell BIA AGM is upcoming on March 2nd. So I would just note that too, if it impacts anyone in this committee or watching currently or later on.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Anything else? Anybody? Jeff, anything? Well, I guess the six of us can take a motion to, we have our upcoming meeting schedule, which is April 20th, June 15th, September 21st, November 16th. We've talked about other business. Motion to adjourn. Coralie, seconded by Michelle, all in favor. All right, our meeting is adjourned, and Daniel will shut the TV off.